90s TV shows, there's plenty of them out there, some good, some bad. But on today's episode, I'm going to discuss the ones that I feel that require or need a live action movie adaptation now. So sit back and enjoy today's episode. Hey, it's me, AP, and welcome to the Saturday Movie Show, everyone. As I said in the intro, Today on the Saturday Movie Show, we're going to be discussing 90s TV shows that I think need a 90s movie, not a 90s movie, a live action movie adaptation. So it's going to be a fun show ahead, but we've got plenty of other stuff to talk about today on the Saturday Movie Show as well. Some movies I've been watching this week, some not so worthy blockbuster housekeeping as always, and again we're going to deep dive into this topic today, this headline topic of 90s TV shows. And really I wanted to get to this because there has been mention this past week of a live action Pokemon series coming about with Netflix, and I will get into that in the headline topic later on in the show. But before we head to the headline topic of today's show, I'm getting so excited. I always get excited for the Saturday Movie Show. Before we get to that, we're going to go to some not-so-worthy blockbuster housekeeping. This is the part of the show, the start of the show really, where we talk about stuff that's going on within the community here on YouTube, and some of the stuff that's going on with the channel, and just a quick update on things really. Just a nice way to have a little chill before we deep dive into them headlines, the headline stories, the headline topic of the show. So, today on Not-So-Worthy Blockbuster Housekeeping, what do I want to talk about? I want to talk about a video I put out this past week on the channel, and it was a Masters of the Universe Revelation, sort of my thoughts video, and just discussing really what I thought of the video, what I thought of the show, what I thought of some of the backlash the show has received. And definitely, if you've not checked it out, check out that episode. It's about a 30-minute video. It was a lot longer than I expected it to be, but I felt like once I got into that topic, it was one that needed sort of like an expanded video normally than the Thursday videos that are normally quite shorter. But I enjoyed that video. I enjoyed sort of giving my views on it and my reasons why I like it and the reason why I don't really enjoy the backlash. And it was nice to hear from other people in the community the thoughts on it. Some people don't like it, and I get that, and some people do like it. And it's always nice to hear people's thoughts, as long as it's constructive criticism. I always believe in that. If you've got an honest reason for why you don't like something, put it down on paper. If you don't like it, if you're just saying something you don't like it because of like some ridiculous, stupid reason, I think it just is silly. But anyway, check out that video. I don't want to ramble on and discuss all that topic again. But that was a really fun video to do. I really enjoyed doing that video. Earlier on, on Monday of this week, I put out a new Patreon exclusive podcast. The last Monday of every month, I do this like an exclusive podcast on Patreon where you have to pay like $1 to join at the lowest tier. We got a few Patreons on there now. It's awesome to have all these Patreons on there. It's really cool. I really appreciate the support. Again, as I always say, it's there if you want some extra content. I am intending to having some more content coming on there over the next month or two, different varied content as well, so we're going to get more and more. I feel like the Patreon's just going to expand and grow bigger, and grow bigger when I say grow big with the content. There's going to be different types of content, more podcasts, more video stuff. I know I'll dive into that in a second, but Coffee and Movie Broadcast, this month's episode was a really exciting one for me to do. I was trying it was an iced caramel latte, and I was discussing 3 movies on it. I was discussing Tombstone, Black Widow, and Trumbo, and I really enjoyed all them 3 movies. It was great. The iced latte was something. No, hang on, it wasn't ice. Like it was a frappuccino. It was. But yeah, it was a great show. I really enjoyed doing it. It was the longest one I put together so far, and there's going to be more of these episodes coming up. But there's already on the Patreon, I think there's over 6 audio extra podcasts you can listen to on the. There's the webcomics currently, but let me get to what's going to be coming up really on there. So we're going to, I think next month, you're probably going to see, if not the month after, the video content. I think I'm aiming for next month really. At least I'm gonna try and like differ it and change things up. So instead of like every Monday is the where fresh content comes out, and most weeks it is a webcomic. I do my own webcomic. I've been doing it for the past year or so, and it's just like a weekly page. But I'm gonna vary it up and maybe do 1 week of the month, do a video, a bonus Patreon exclusive video. Let me know your thoughts on that. But I've already got some Patreon videos lined up, what I'm going to be posting over the next month or two. So they are in the works currently. They're just being sort of post edited now, if that's like the professional term. I don't know. I'm not professional. But yeah, I'm in like the post of editing them ones. But there's going to be more, and I think it's just going to vary it again. So you're going to have then the webcomics, the extra video, the podcast, and then it'll just be a growth from that. It'll be just an expansion from that when later down the line where I'll add more things and vary it and just make it more similar to what the channel is offering here, but just extra of what the channel's offering. And it's going to be fun. I'm really enjoying it. I think I'm going to be uploading them videos via. This is the only thing with Patreon at the moment, anyway. And if anyone else out there has a better solution for this, let me know. But I know if you want to upload audio, I do the podcast, and you have like a size limit, but if you post it as MP3, you can pretty much do podcasts for like a good couple of hours, I suppose. When it comes to video, though, they don't actually let you upload via Patreon, so you can't just post it to Patreon's website. You need to do it via another source. So I have looked online. It seems like the two best sources to upload a video to Patreon are either Vimeo or YouTube. And Vimeo, I know it is a paid service. You can get a free version, but you can only get so much with the limits. So I've been thinking, I use YouTube. I can upload a video unlisted on YouTube and then post it to Patreon. I think that would be, a cost-saving way of doing it. A way that also I think it's just going to be no different than using Vimeo. I mean, if you're out there, if someone's saying to me now Vimeo is better, let me know your reasons why you think it's better and why there's more benefits to using Vimeo. But I think as a small time, wow, you can hear that. I don't know if anyone can hear it. The rain's going on crazy out there. It's raining like crazy today. But as a small time creator like myself, small channel, I don't want to be spending buckloads of money on hosting on Vimeo. I'd realistically like to do it as cheap as possible. Not because I'm a cheapskate, maybe I am, but YouTube, if I can do something for free, why not? It makes more sense. But let me know if anyone's got any better ideas. Maybe there's somewhere else I've missed out, another video hosting website that I could potentially use. Let me know if anyone's had this sort of predicament with Patreon before, with video content uploading, that sort of stuff. But anyway, and so that is what's going to come over the next month or two on the Patreon. It's getting exciting on Patreon. I feel like I've got a few different ideas. I feel like Patreon is... I feel like I'm running this football club or like a sports team, and Patreon's like the development area where I can just sort of like get the paint pad out a bit more and just throw a bit of flair on and take new ground with Patreon and just have a bit more fun. I feel like the videos sometimes here could actually do with some of the Patreon stuff on here. A bit more fun, because I like having a laugh. I'm maybe sometimes I come across as a bit like serious, maybe, or I don't know how I come across. Maybe let me know how I come across in videos. But I think the Patreons have a little bit more, I suppose, flair and just stupidness to them. Not flair. I think flair's the wrong word. I say stupidness. I think stupidness and silliness to the videos. And I think maybe that's something I need to embrace more on this channel. And it's something I'm sure we'll get to. Just we'll pull in a bit more of that Patreon content, the energy, and throw it into these normal podcasts. But I hope these shows do please you anyway. I hope there's some humour, some stupidity. I like stupidity. It's always fun. Anyway, that is what else have we got? But yeah, last thing I want to say was the cooler weather, though. The weather has been getting cooler. I've just got in my notes here, cooler weather. I'm like, what's cooler weather mean? The cooler weather. I mentioned this over the past few weeks. It's been so warm. I've not been able to batch videos together because I've just been sweating like anything doing podcast. I remember last week's show, for instance. I think it was by the back end of that show, I was saying that I can't do any longer because I was just so warm and the sweat was dripping off me. It's got a lot cooler now here in the UK. I'm kind of glad of it because although I like nice weather, I just don't like the weather when you can't like sleep at night when it's just so warm. You're just like super duper, just you can't breathe. It's just super humid. So this is like a bit better, but it is a bit unfortunate. It's raining now. That is, we can't have it all. That's the problem. I'm a typical British person. I complain about the bad weather. I complain about the weather when it's bad. I complain about the weather when it's good. I'm British. I think it's just a British thing to do, isn't it? But anyway, that is the not so worthy blockbuster housekeeping over for today's episode. But we are going to go on to the headline topic for today's show. So, 90s TV shows that need live action movie adaptations, live action movies. And I wanted to do this episode because I heard something in the news early on this week, and I looked into it today just to refresh on this topic. But there's an article on Variety, and the title of it is basically Pokemon live Pokemon. I'm getting tongue tied here. Pokemon live action series in early development at Netflix from Lucifer's Joe Henderson. I've never watched Lucifer. I know it's got a following. It's got a lot of people like that show, but I don't know this Joe Henderson. I'm not aware of this director or this showrunner. But the wording of the title says it all. Netflix are looking at making a live action series of the Pokemon series, and for me, I think that is a very cool idea. We know it's at this moment in time, it's very much in early days, an early point of the process. But if it does happen, I think that would be very, very cool. I think Pokemon is a great property, but it spawned the idea of like what sort of shows I'd like to see, how I'd like them to be adapted, and really just looking at the 90s in particular, really. And this is what we're going to look at today. I'm going to look at 90s TV shows specifically, and I'm going to go through 4 properties that I feel like could really do well as a movie in 2021 or beyond. And I know they're on about doing a live action series, but what I'm talking about here is TV shows that would make good live action movies. So this is what really spawned the idea, the talk of a live action TV series of Pokemon. That is exciting, but I want to talk about some of the TV series from the 90s that I think would work well as live action movie adaptations. So specifically 90s movies into live action movie adaptations, not TV shows. So let me start off with my first choice. And my first choice is the Pokemon series. And I know there's talk of them doing like a 90s, of doing a series from the Pokemon series. But I think it would be more suited as a movie. I really do think it would work as a movie. I know they did like the Detective Pikachu movie, and I really enjoyed that. I thought it was a great movie. Really good. But that was an adaptation of more of the video game, and I think the actual TV show of like Ash Ketchum going on his journey with Pikachu and Brock and Misty in the Indigo League in the first series of Pokemon would work well as a movie. And I think the way I would actually do it, I would set it off similar to like the Harry Potter movies, where it's going through like year 1, year 2, and I would do it like maybe like the first part of the series. And let me just, if you've never watched Pokemon before, let me just introduce you to Pokemon. Maybe some of you have never watched Pokemon. Pokemon is a series about a kid who lives in this world where these creatures, animals called Pokemon, live with humans, and basically in the world they use them to battle, they use them to train, to help people, and basically they live with Pokemon in this world. And they have like this Pokemon League, they call it, and they have to go and beat trainers and beat gym leaders to get these Pokemon badges. Until they get so many badges, they can go into the Pokemon League and try and become a Pokemon Master, basically. And that's the premise of the show, basically. And the show really starts off with Ash Ketchum, the main protagonist of the show, and he is going to pick his first Pokemon. And the 3 Pokemon he really wants is either Charmander, Bulbasaur, or Squirtle. And then it turns out all them Pokemon have been taken. There's only one Pokemon left. And it is Pikachu. Pikachu, and at first, in the first episode or so, they don't get on that well because Pikachu doesn't want to be kept in a Pokeball. He doesn't want to battle. And then you see them growing fond of each other. They grow a relationship, like a friend, as friends. And you go to see them. Then he collects more Pokemon along the way, catches Pokemon in the Pokeballs and the journey, and he becomes not a Jedi Master. I was going to say Jedi Master, a Pokemon Master by entering in the Pokemon League. And this has went on for many series. I will say I have watched the first couple of seasons of Pokemon, and I wouldn't know exactly where I stopped watching. I think it got to like the Generation 2 of Pokemon, and I watched a bit of that, and then I maybe just grew out of it a bit, or just stopped watching it at that time. But I was big on the series back in the like the 90s, early 2000s. I was really big on the games. But the TV show was what I enjoyed the most. I thought the TV show was fantastic. And like I said, I think if I was going to set it out as a movie, a live action movie, which I think Pokemon would work really well, I would do it like that. I would have like maybe year one Pokemon, like Ash is either going for his first couple of badges and he gets stopped by Team Rocket. Team Rocket are the antagonists on the show who are trying to steal all the Pokemon and just do bad things all the time. They could be the first enemy, the first like villain in the first movie, and then maybe you could see in a second movie or even the first one him going into the Pokemon League. I think there's just tons of little like adventures you could put them on in a movie and do it over the years and see the characters grow and have it as like have like teenage actors or child actors playing them roles from the TV shows because in the TV show they are meant to be like children or like he's coming of age, he's like maybe 11, 12. Have someone like that and then see them characters grow over the years and just see them maybe Ash become that Pokemon Master. And I think it would be really good. I think it would work as a movie series. I think that like Detective Pikachu did relatively well as a movie video game adaptation. Video. I know the series was very much. It started as like the Pokemon series started very much with the games and the TV shows all around the same time, I believe. So I don't know what you would say it first started as. For me, it was always the TV show, and then the games and the Pokemon cards and everything else come after that. But yeah, I would really like to see a Pokemon movie adaptation. I think it'd be so cool. And the next one I want to talk about, and it is, let me just say before I do move on, Pokemon was 1997, it started the TV show. The next one I want to talk about, though, is Batman Beyond, and this was started in January 1999, and Batman Beyond, I gotta say, I've never really watched the show much. I've seen little bits over the years, but I've never really went all in on this show, but what I like about it is the premise. I love this premise of, like, you've got this the premise of the show is Bruce Wayne is it's 20 years after the original animated show. It's set in 2019. So I think you'd have to set it further in the future now for it to seem cooler. But it's in like this futuristic world. Bruce Wayne has a heart attack and he decides to hang up his cowl, retire as Batman. And then Bruce Wayne now is looking for a new protege and he takes on Terry McGinnis because he had a similar upbringing to Bruce. And he takes on the mantle of Batman in this futuristic world, even though we're way past 2019 now, thankfully. And it's an I think it's just an interesting concept, even though I've not watched much of the show. I think it would be a great movie, and I think this could be potentially what they're doing further down the line with Michael Keaton returning to the Batman series. I think he would work well in that role as the old Batman, and maybe with the Flashpoint movie coming up, we see sort of the foundations for this Batman Beyond movie. Because I love that idea of maybe of it this in the it doesn't I suppose it doesn't even have to be in a future world. It could be just in the timeline we're in now. It depends where Michael Keaton's Batman is put in this timeline if they go with that direction. But they could easily just get someone else to play Bruce Wayne, an old version of Bruce Wayne, and get someone to play Terry McGinnis. I think there's plenty of options there to do it. I think it would work well with Michael Keaton because you've got that connection to the original Batman movie. But I think it could work well both ways. But I would really like to see that, just a different version of Batman. We've seen over the years lots of different versions, but they still feel they're all like wrapped in a similar world because they're all in a sort of very present day timeline. I think if we had a Batman either in the past or in the future, it would be awesome. So if they did set this Batman in a future world, or just telling the story of a different Batman, a Terry McGinnis as Batman in a live action movie, to see someone else other than Bruce Wayne would be different. And I love that idea of just doing something different, something fresh, and Batman Beyond would certainly be something fresh for a live action movie adaptation. So the next potential 90s TV show I would like to see as a live action movie now would be Digimon Adventures or Digimon Adventure. And this was a show in 1999. And Digimon, I suppose it came just after the sort of like the Pokemon craze. I would say it was very much like a set out as a direct rival to Pokemon. I don't think it ever got to the heights of Pokemon Digimon. But basically, Digimon, it was very similar. They had like video games. They had a really awesome PS1 game. It was like a role play, an RPG, and actually remember loving this game as a kid, and I've revisited that game on the PS1 Classic, and it does not age that well. It was pretty poor. Let me know if anyone else has played that game, the Digimon game, the RPG on the PlayStation 1. Let me know what your thoughts are, and if you've replayed it recently, let me know what you think of that game. But anyway, let's talk about the Digimon TV show as well. So you have Digimon Digital Monsters. Again, very similar to Pokemon. So they had this TV show called Digimon Adventure, where it's a bunch of kids, they go into this digital world. They get sucked into this digital world. Rather than Pokemon, where Pokemon is very much like Pokemon and humans are living together. In the Digimon world, it is in a completely different world in this series anyway. I don't know where it's went in the future shows, but in this first series, these bunch of kids, they get sucked into this digital world, and then they get paired up with these Digimon. And Digimon are basically, like I said, very much just like Pokemon. They evolve just like Pokemon. They like Digi-evolve with these like Digi sort of things they get. I forget. I was more into Pokemon, but I did like Digimon. I remember watching this show a lot as a kid, and I think I probably watched the first season of this, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great show. Like Agumon, he was obviously the standout Digimon I'd like. But just the premise was the kids get sucked into the digital world, they get paired up with these Digimon, and then they have to take on this evil threat to get out of the digital world and save the Digimon world, but also save their world and also get back to their home world as well of Earth. And I think it was just a really interesting story, but I think it would work as a live action movie adaptation, as like a sci-fi fantasy adventure for me. And my idea for this it doesn't really have to be about kids going into this Digimon world. I think Pokemon is very much a coming of age story, and the story I would definitely tell with Pokemon is the story what the show very much sets out. But with Digimon, I think you could do it very different. I think you could take elements from this particular TV series, this Digimon Adventure, but you could take elements, but maybe change it up slightly. I think you could easily have adults or like a family going into this digital world. I don't think it necessarily has to be kids, because you've not got that coming of age story really with them doing the battles or going up a Pokemon League. It's very different. So you could have a family going into this digital world or a set of adults. I think it could work either way. Or if you wanted to shoot with kids as well, it could easily be filmed with kids as well, like the original series. But I love it, like this idea of going into this other world, and it, like similar to like your Space Jam 2, your Tron Legacy, where it's you're going into this digitalized world, and then you're seeing these creatures there that you have to work with, and train them to battle these other monsters and help them in their adventures to save their world. I think it's got a really good premise there to be a really fun movie, and whether it would be a series that would do well financially. I mean, we've definitely had loads of series in the past that have not done that well, like video game adaptations, TV show adaptations. Would Digimon be any different? I don't know. It may be a flop. It may not be, because it's not as big on name value as Pokemon. But who knows? Some of these movies can surprise us sometimes, and some movies. Look, Sonic the Hedgehog was a movie I didn't think would do that well, but it did really well, and it's got a sequel now, and deservedly got a sequel. I really enjoyed that movie, and I think the Pokemon movie again that done well, but that had more name value to it. Could Digimon do well? It could be a flop easily, or it could do well. I think it depends on how much care they put into any of these movies, and who's behind the writing the movie, who's behind directing the movie, who's involved with the movie. God, if you attach Ryan Reynolds to Digimon, is Digimon gonna flop? I don't think so. I think if you put Ryan Reynolds on Digimon, Digimon does big numbers. It becomes a huge movie. If you put The Rock in Digimon, this movie would be massive. I think it's how much they want to put into a production, and it's who they want to put into production half the time. If if the big wigs at these big production companies want a movie adaptation to do well, I think they decide way beforehand, and they know if they want to put it out there and put it to be a big mainstream, big audience picture. And Digimon could easily be that. It could easily be that because it's got a cool little premise there of going into this digital world, having these digital creatures taking on evil villains. I think it could work like a Jumanji, like a Tron Legacy. It could work like any of these different ones where it's going into this totally different world from what we're used to normally. And I think it would really work as a live action movie adaptation. Tell me you wouldn't like to see The Rock, Ryan Reynolds and The Rock, maybe throw in Vin Diesel as well, have them as the stars of Digimon. I'd love that. Agumon and The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. I'm down for that. Let me know out there who's watched Digimon though. What are your memories of Digimon as a child, as a young adult, or maybe you watch it now. Maybe you've never watched it before. You've watched it more recently. Let me know your thoughts on Digimon. The last one I wanted to discuss is this is one that really is like a nostalgia bomb. This is nostalgia wrapped in a big, nice present, wrapped in a big bow, and I'm just opening this now, and the memories are flooding back to me. All those nostalgia, them 90s child memories that I had, and it's fun. It's fun, and I've been reading about this show today just to reabsorb some of the show in and just remember it again. And the show I want to talk about is Big Bad Beetleborgs. You know, Big Bad Beetleborgs, Big Bad Beetleborgs. That's the theme song. I know, I butchered it. I'm sorry, ladies and gents. Don't turn off the show yet. But yeah, Big Bad Beetleborgs. This was this was a show that came few years after the hype of Power Rangers. I know we had loads of these spin-offs after Power Rangers come in. And Beetleborgs was by the same production company, Saban, and I think it was like by a lot of the same like producers, directors of the Power Rangers series. I don't know if it was similar where they used footage from like Super Sentai. I don't know if Beetleborgs did a similar thing. I imagine they probably did. But basically, let's talk about what the premise of what Big Bad Beetleborgs was if you've never seen that show before. Basically, Big Bad Beetleborgs was a show of three kids go into this haunted mansion. They get dared into going to this haunted mansion. And in this mansion, they had like all like the universal monsters. I don't think they could actually call them by the name. So like you'd have like Dracula. I don't think they could name them by the names as far as I'm aware. But you'd have like the Mummy, all them sort of ones you can think of. Frankenstein's monster. And they had this ghoul character who was very much like a Jay Leno slash Elvis kind of guy. This ghoulish character that they released, and basically he granted them all one wish. These three kids who went into this haunted house, and the kids then make a wish to become the comic book. Like the favorite comic book. The favorite comic book is Big Bad Beetleborgs, and they choose to become the Big Bad Beetleborgs. So they choose to become actual comic book heroes. So it's like me getting a wish from a genie now and saying, I want to become Spider-Man or I want to become Batman. And that becomes true. They then become those characters. So the Big Bad Beetleborgs is a comic book. They make a wish to become the characters from the comic book. They show the comic book to Flabber, this character, and he makes a wish, and he grants them the wish, and he makes them Big Bad Beetleborgs. And I just love that concept straight off the back. I think it's a really cool, fresh concept. I think it's just super interesting. Like, it's taking a comic book, they become the characters from the comic book. I think it's really cool. Very much like the Power Rangers, they had like these Power Rangers like suits. The suits were really cool in Beetleborgs as well. They had like antennas, like they were actual like beetles. I think in the second season they had like updated suits as well. But it was really cool. They had like Zords, very similar to Power Rangers. So it basically, after you take away the whole like haunted house thing, it was very much Power Rangers. But the other twist to it as well was when he granted them the wish of becoming the comic book characters, the characters they liked in the comic book, the heroes of the comic book, the Big Bad Beetleborgs. This also brought the villains from the comic book to life as well. So then they had to battle the villains within the comic book in the real world. Then it got really interesting where they would visit the comic book shop and they'd find the original artist of the comic book, and he would then create more things that would help them, like more weapons and stuff like this to help them. And the stuff from what he would draw in the comics would then come alive for them. I just think it's a really cool concept. And I know they had the recent reboot a few years back of the Power Rangers. I feel like if they were going to build some sort of expanded sort of Saban Power Rangers universe at some point, it would be cool to see the Big Bad Beetleborgs in there as a live action movie. I think the premise is good. I do think it was very, very, very cheesy. Look back, Power Rangers was super cheesy as well. If you look back at Power Rangers now, it has aged badly. In my opinion, I think it's aged really badly. I think you have the memories of what it was, and then you look back and then you watch it, and it is very, very cheesy, very, very similar each episode, even though it is so fun to watch. But I think if you had an updated version and make it a bit more scary and, having the idea of going in a haunted mansion and meeting this ghoulish character, I think it would have to look completely different to the actual TV show and make it a bit more scary, a bit more, not realistic, but just less kiddie. I think if they do it like that, it would be better. It would work better. But I think having the same premise of having this comic book come to life and these kids choose the characters they want to be, I think it's a really interesting idea, and I think it would work really as well as a Scott Pilgrim sort of thing. I can imagine that guy. Who was it? The guy he done Scott Pilgrim. He did Shaun of the Dead. I can't remember the guy's name. I think he would actually be the sort of guy who, if it was Edgar Wright, wasn't it? Edgar Wright. He would be a great director for Big Bad Beetleborgs. If you had the humour, what he puts into his movies, and this concept, I think it would work really well with someone like that in charge. Or like a James Gunn. I think they're the sort of directors who could really get into this idea and make something really interesting and really creative with this idea. Because it's not just a simple story, it's got that interesting story element attached to it. I think having a creator like that in there would work well, and it would really be a cool story. So I would love to see a Big Bad Beetleborgs movie, live action adaptation. I think it would be awesome. I think it would be super awesome to see. But before I sort of end this topic today, they are my four choices: Pokemon, Batman Beyond, Digimon, and Big Bad Beetleborgs. I would love to see all these 90s TV shows become live action movies at some point in the future. It would be awesome to see. What I will say is what are the 90s adaptations that I have enjoyed so far? I think, look, the Detective Pikachu movie, as I said, this was an adaptation of the video game. The Detective Pikachu video game wasn't exactly a 90s video game, but I suppose it was borrowed from the concept of the series, the 90s TV show, of Pikachu being such a big part of that. I love that movie. I think it was a really good movie, as a really good successful 90s adaptation / video game adaptation. But I think as well, the Power Rangers movie, I did mention this in the video I did last week on the Masters of the Universe Revelation. I definitely had things I didn't like in it, but I think the there was a lot of positives in that movie which outweighed negatives for me. And I would love to see more Power Rangers. I know there's talk of another reboot. I think it would be cool to see like the Shattered Grid storyline from the comic books being made into some sort of adaptation. But even if they just, took like another shot at making another adaptation of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, if I was going to do it, I would definitely start with like the White Ranger and that team of like, was it season 2, season 3? Because I preferred the White Ranger over the Green Ranger. I was never a massive Green Ranger fan. I know a lot of people do prefer the Green Ranger. I prefer the White Ranger. I think his suit looked awesome. I preferred the Zords he had. I loved his sword. His sword had like the little tiger would talk to him. It was an ace. And then you could do like maybe an evil Green Ranger in that show, in the movie, taking on maybe something like that. I know Tommy was the White Ranger and the Green Ranger, but you could mix it up and do something different with the storyline. I'd like to see that sort of adaptation, and maybe just having a bit more stuff from the original show, like the costumes similar to what the originals were, because the new adaptation wasn't that similar. The Zords, I'd like them to look more similar to the original show as well. Just having a bit more of that, like Lord Zed. I'd love to see Lord Zed in the live action show. But the 90s, that movie adaptation was fun to watch. And if you've never watched that, and if you like Power Rangers as a kid or as a young adult or at any point in your life, definitely check out that movie because it had its merits. It was a fun movie to watch. They are the 90s movie adaptation. I'm sure there's more out there that I've just not sort of like thought of at this moment in time. But they are the 90s TV shows that have had live action movies that I have enjoyed so far anyway. But anyway, let's move away from the talk of the 90s TV shows and live action movies. Let's move on to some movies for the weekend, some recommendations that I want to talk about this weekend of movies that I think you might like and you might enjoy. So, 2 movies, and I'm sure I've probably mentioned this on the show before. I was looking through the collection and really just movies that I probably do mention movies again and again and again, but these are movies I'll always go back to because I really do enjoy them. But I think this must have been 90s. Aladdin. I love this movie. The Aladdin movie with Robin Williams. I like the reboot as well, the remake, but I do like this. This version is very fun, and I think Robin Williams is great as Genie, and it's just a fun movie to watch. So this is one for the whole family. Definitely, if you get a chance, watch this weekend. The second one I want to talk about is Tommy Lee Jones and Benicio del Toro movie, The Hunted. And this comes to mind because I've got another movie I want to discuss in a moment that featured Tommy Lee Jones. And The Hunted was very much, he's kind of like a Rambo kind of guy, gone crazy, Benicio del Toro's character. And what can I say? Yeah, Tommy Lee Jones he's like trainer. I think he's like a Navy SEAL or some sort of like high-ranking army secret ops guy who just goes off the edge, and then he has to try and take him down when he comes back into civilization. Really good movie, well worth checking out this weekend if you can get your grabs on this, either digital or physical. Check it out, ladies and gents. Well, anyway, they're my movie recommendations for the weekend, movies of the weekend for this week. Let's talk about, though, what have I been watching this week. 2 movies I've been watching and a TV show. I've been watching more Firefly. I've been really enjoying that. And that was a recommendation, as I said last week, by Mark and my buddy Lee as well. He also previously recommended that to me, but both great recommendations for you both, gents. It's been a fun show so far. I've not watched it all yet. So don't give me any spoilers, ladies and gents. I don't want spoilers for Firefly. But I'm going to watch that, and then I'm going to watch the spin-off film Serenity after that. But I'm really enjoying that so far. A few episodes in now. What have I've watched this week? I watched Captain Fantastic. It was on the iPlayer this week. It was the movie with the guy who played Aragorn in Lord of the Rings. And it's about a movie. It's a movie about this family that are off the grid, and they live in the wild. And then a tragic event leads the whole family he's like the father. He's brought up all his children in the wild. They have to go into normal civilization for a certain reason because of a tragic event. It's a really good story. I think it's a really an emotional story, but a really uplifting story at the same time as well. Very good story, and it's a couple of years old now, Captain Fantastic. I never watched it at the time, but I watched it the first time this week, and it was a superb film. So the other movie I watched this week was Under Siege, starring Steven Seagal, Tommy Lee Jones, as I mentioned, Tommy Lee Jones in the Hunted video, and Gary Busey. And this was a recommendation from Sean and Raymond in the community. Great recommendation, gents. I really enjoyed this film. And this come from last week's episode where we were talking about 90s action movies and 90s action movie stars. Both of the guys recommended that movie, and it was a great recommendation. I really enjoyed it. It was very much for me. The way I would describe this movie, Under Siege, is very much like a Die Hard on water. It was this big like Navy ship, and it gets taken over by these bad guys, and it's very much like it really had the feel of Die Hard, and it felt like, Steven Seagal's character of Ryback was John McClane. He was Bruce Willis, John McClane, and he was this guy who's super trained. He's like an ex sort of like super ops guy who can fight and take on armies, and it was just so much fun. And I can't recall watching a Steven Seagal movie before, but I'm sure I have, but I can't really think of one. But I really enjoyed this movie. I thought Gary Busey was great in it. I thought he was a good villain. I thought Tommy Lee Jones was equally just as good. But Steven Seagal, he's a great action movie star. Just give me more Steven Seagal movies now. Give me some more picks for Steven Seagal movies that I should be checking out, because I enjoy this one. So Raymond, Sean, great recommendation, gents. I really enjoyed that one. Really good. But anyway, that is today's show. They are the things I've been watching this week, and that is today's show over and done with. If you did like today's show, please do give it a like and check out the rest of my movie-related content as well. And it's been a fun show. It's been a fun show discussing 90s TV shows. And be cool. Let me know what your favourite picks would be as 90s. What 90s TV shows do you think would work as a live-action movie adaptation? Now, which ones would you like to see? Which ones do you reckon would work the best? Give me your top 3 adaptations you'd like to see, and let me know your thoughts on my picks today. Have you watched any of these shows in the past? Do you think these would not work as well, or do you think they'd be good picks for being live action movie adaptations? Let me know all your thoughts on today's episodes, on all the topics of today's episode. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gents, and as always, I will see you next time.